Are we live? Welcome to another episode of Just My Opinion podcast, episode 25. How you living? I'm living swell. Got a lot of NBA news and notes. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think I'm mispronouncing his name. You guys know I butcher names on a constant basis. Once was a member of the Indiana Pacers, has now took his talents to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now the Cleveland Cavaliers have not one, but two former players that used to play with the Brooklyn Nets alongside Kevin Durant for a short period of time, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And the Brooklyn Nets gave up on those players as well as the draft picks to make a blockbuster trade to get James Harden. And the Brooklyn Nets is waiting to cash in on that deal. And ever since that deal, the Brooklyn Nets can't get past themselves as well as be a representative for the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. But they said that this was clearly a deal that they had to make. And we're going to have to see if it plays out for the betterment of the Brooklyn Nets. So far, it hasn't. Okay. But the Cleveland Cavaliers have two of those players. They used to play for the Brooklyn Nets. They used to play for the Brooklyn Nets. Now they play for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers are like a game out of being numero uno, number one in the NBA standings in the Eastern Conference, which is astonishing. So we have to give it up, give them their flowers. The Cleveland Cavaliers organization, you have to look at this organization 2-3 years ago when the possibility of a future was a positive future, was kind of head scratching. You wasn't really sure about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Remember, the Cleveland Cavaliers just got out of those two ridiculous contracts that tried to make LeBron James happy. In the pursuit of making LeBron James happy, they overpaid for J.R. Smith, which there was no takers for J.R. Smith. The Cleveland Cavaliers wanted to sign J.R. Smith to a max contract because that was one of LeBron James' friends, and that would make LeBron James happy, which I already told you guys when they made that deal. Trust me, in a year, 2 years of that deal being signed and the ink dried, LeBron James is going to be not so happy with J.R. Smith, which he did. And they overpaid for Christian Thompson, the Kardashian boyfriend to Khloe. Is it Khloe? I don't keep up with Kardashians. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to comment in the comment section and say I'm wrong. And that's fine. I could be wrong with the Kardashians. I don't watch the Kardashians. Who had a baby by one of the Kardashians. And once again, the Cleveland Cavaliers organization was forced, not given an option, forced to sign him just to make LeBron James happy, only to find out that LeBron James left them high and dry with no draft picks. They sold away all their talent, all their future, and they were stuck with these contracts that no one wanted. But slowly but surely, the Cleveland Cavaliers gotten their draft picks back started getting draft picks. Got rid of J.R. Smith as well as Christian Thompson. Even though a lot of people speculated that, Kevin Love should demand and request a trade, but Kevin Love stayed pat. He stayed firm. He loved the Cleveland Cavaliers organization, and he saw the writing on the wall, the potential what the Cleveland Cavaliers could do. And he stayed with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and now he comes off the bench, and he's currently happy with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers this year are a game away from being number one in the East with no superstars, no super team, and the possibility of them going deep into the playoffs. So you have to give respect where respect is due. You have to give a salute, a stand up, give them their flowers to the Cleveland Cavaliers front office, the Cleveland Cavaliers owner, even though I don't have anything positive to say about him as a human being, but as far as an owner, he really believed in this organization, put the right people in the right places to make the right decisions. And now look at the Cleveland Cavaliers with no superstar, no super team, and they're like a game away for being number one in the East. You also have to give them their respect of a lot of injuries, and trying to make trades to overcome those injuries, only to be put in a further hole as far as talent goes. And they got this deal from the Indiana Pacers because clearly the Indiana Pacers are blowing everything up. Everything is for sale. They're having a fire sale, and they're just rebuilding. They're just rebuilding. They just come to the realization that this is not their time. Maybe 5 years from now, it'll probably be their time. But today is not their time. It's not their day. It's not their day to shine in the light. So they are, selling any type of talent to acquire more draft picks, which that's what the Indiana Pacers are looking at. They're taking draft picks as well as expiring contracts at the end of the year, and they're going to be under the salary cap, and they're going to be building for their future in the draft. I wish them the best of luck. But if you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have re-up, and if the players come, if their player base comes back fully healthy, who knows how far this team is going? Or are they even contenders in the East? Are they the big man on campus in the East? Those are questions that we will not know until later on this season. We definitely will know about these during the playoff run. If you look at the Miami Heat has, gotten up and out of a lot of ridiculous contracts and a lot of players that they drafted and signed. And now look at the Miami Heat. 2 years ago, when they were playing in the NBA Finals against LeBron and the Lakers won that finals. But look how fast and how far the Miami Heat gotten from all the decisions that they made to keep Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh happy. And look what they're doing right now. A quick turnaround. So you have to give them their salute. You have to give them their flowers. You have to give them their respect. If you look at the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers, they don't have a super team. They don't have a super player that a player that for the eras. They don't have none of that stuff. Even though the Miami Heat have and I can't think of his name right now, and I do apologize. Who had bounced around. He used to play for the Timberwolves. And then he played for the 76ers. Give me a few seconds. I will think of his name. People are going to comment in the comment section. You're talking about so-and-so. Yeah, I'm talking. Yeah, that's the person I'm talking about. They have an all-star player for the Miami Heat, but the rest of those players are players that they got from the draft, the role players, they players that fit their style and their system. And if you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, pretty much the same thing. They don't have an all-star. They don't have, even though if you want to consider Kevin Love, what he was with that big three with Kyrie and LeBron, if you want to go that far with it. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are a game away from being the top dogs in the East. And if you look at the East, there's no clear-cut top dog in the East. The Milwaukee Bucks, they're competing. The Brooklyn Nets, they're competing. Then you had these teams that people were talking about. Well, they just need one player. They're one player away from, being the top dog in the East. The Atlanta Hawks. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. Look at the New York Knicks. those teams I just mentioned are taking steps back, even though they're contending, even though they're in the standings when it comes to the playoff race. They're not out of it, not by any stretch of the imagination. But you start noticing teams like Cleveland that doesn't have that type of talent, that does not have that type of coaching staff, that does not have that type of all-star. And you have to give respect where respect is due for the Cleveland Cavaliers organization. They have came a long way. And now they're here. And there's a possibility of them being a serious threat in the playoffs. Serious threat. The Brooklyn Nets, who once had Spencer, who once had these players, gave up on these players for James Harden. And now look at the Brooklyn Nets now. Kevin Durant is injured. He probably won't be back for another month, maybe two. You got Kyrie Irving, who's not going to take the vaccine, who refuses to take the vaccine and wants to be not even a part-time player, but just a rental player. A rental player that still has years remaining on his contract. And now you got James Harden in and out of the lineup. Not too sure about his future. The future is in question as far as James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets. You've been hearing a whole lot of ridiculous reports. Sham and woes. Sham saying that James Harden is done in Brooklyn. They're going to orchestrate a trade where they send James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers. In return, they get Ben Simmons. Then Sham said, well, that deal is still up in limbo because the Brooklyn Nets want more, and the Philadelphia 76ers are unwilling to give them more. Okay? But you got Woes, who basically said that deal is there's no such deal. That deal does not exist. And he talked to Sean Marks, and even Sean Marks even said it in numerous interviews that their intent as far as keeping James Harden. They're not in no type of discussion of trading James Harden. And I feel like Woes is right on this. He is absolutely correct on this. James Harden loves to play basketball. James Harden loves to be popular by playing basketball. But guess what James Harden also loves more than that? James Harden loves his money, folks. James Harden is not going anywhere. He's not going to give up his bird right contract obligations and the obligation of him signing another big contract or another extension just to have the ability to be free and sign to any contending team making pennies. He's James Harden may have a small aspiration of winning titles. James Harden may have a small aspiration as far as individual stats, but James Harden loves his money. And the only way James Harden is going to play elsewhere, particularly in the offseason, if the Brooklyn Nets do a sign and trade where they sign James Harden to the extension, then trade him away to wherever team he wants to go to, which it'd probably be Philadelphia. But then Philadelphia has no choice but to give up more to get James Harden. And the Brooklyn Nets and Sean Marks is not going to do that. And James Harden does not want that to be done because he wants his max money. The only way he's going to get his max money if he stays in Brooklyn. Now, there are a few teams out there that can get him close to that type of money, but I just don't see James Harden going to those teams. But if you look at Brooklyn, and the struggle is real in Brooklyn, they're up and down. And if you look at Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Bucks, who won the title last year, the struggle is real with them. They're up and down sometimes. And then you look at these other teams, such as the next tier of teams that are one player away or one move away from being the top dog in the East. When you look at the Atlanta Hawks, the struggle is real with the Atlanta Hawks. They are not meeting their potential or their expectation. When you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, even though Ben Simmons is on strike, and they had moments where they're doing good without Ben Simmons, still they need another star, or they need Ben Simmons to come back if they want to move into the upper echelon of top dog in the East. And I feel like the East is made for anyone to take over. There's no clear top dog in the East. And this will be the year for those teams that I just mentioned, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks, to overtake and dethrone the Milwaukee Bucks, who just won a title last year. The Brooklyn Nets, who we don't know what type of Brooklyn Nets we're going to get with Kevin Durant's injury, James Harden in and out and struggling, and Kyrie still wanting to be a rental player, playing only a few games, and the expectation is he's going to have this same format in the playoffs. Those teams I just mentioned, this could be their year to dethrone and overtake the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. Then you got the next tier of teams that you scratch your head and you go, wow, you had high hopes for this team only to be let down. And that's the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. The New York Knicks are struggling. Thibodeau cannot get that team functioning right. Are they in the position of maybe trading away some players to get a resurgence? Do they have to do that? Will that work for the New York Knicks? They were in the playoffs last year. Julius Randle is not the same player he was last year. Have the league caught up to Julius Randle? I believe so. If you look at the Boston Celtics, you got Tatum and Brown. These guys are constantly talked about. But the Cleveland Cavaliers but the Boston Celtics are not going anywhere fast. Is this the year where you start maybe think about trading one of those players because their talent, their style really don't fit? And you done had multiple seasons where you try to get this to work out and it's just not working. Is there a trade in their future trading one of those players to get a boatload of draft picks plus a boatload of players that could play alongside either of those players? Therein lies the you got the Heat. The Heat have been consistent. They haven't been dominating the East, but they have been consistent. Is this the year where they can overtake all these other teams and be a representative in the East as long as they stay healthy? But if you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers are like one game away from being number one in the East. And they're doing it without a super team. They're doing it without an all-star. And it's not smoke and mirrors, folks. It's not smoke and mirrors. This is the real deal. Real deal, Holyfield. Real deal. And if you go out west, the usual suspects are the usual suspects. You got I'm about to say Los Angeles Lakers. You got the Golden State Warriors. They're number one. They're contending in the West. You got the Phoenix Suns. They're contending. They're contending in the West. Those are two teams that the rest of the teams that are in the standings as far as playoffs, who got playoff, who are secured in the playoffs, the struggle is going to be real for any team going against the Golden State Warriors or the Phoenix Suns. You got the Clippers maintaining, but there's still leaks in the boat, but they're still maintaining, doing a lot better maintaining than the other team, which is the Lakers. The Lakers really have done it to themselves. They're stuck with Russell Westbrook, who they benched Saturday. No one really wants that contract. He has 2 years remaining. I think they owe him like another 25 of, I think it was 37 this year, 40 next year. Who wants that contract? It's gotten so bad for the Lakers that now they're talking about a trade where they send Russell Westbrook back to the Houston Rockets, who the Houston Rockets already had Russell Westbrook, and in return, they're going to get John Wall, which they're going to have different problems. Can John Wall stay healthy? Clearly, he's not the same John Wall he once was back in his Wizards days. So you're essentially trading one problem for another problem. And I feel like that trade is off the table. I think the Lakers are going to be stuck with Russ, and Russ we trust. You also have a whole lot of dissension going on. And I also feel like it's right about time for Anthony Davis to get another injury. LeBron's going to be in and out of the lineup because this team is literally not going anywhere. They finally relinquish control back to the head coach, which he should have had control all along. And they're finally allowing him to coach. Do whatever you have to do to get this team on the right track, which Frank Vogel should have the common decency to been doing that since the beginning of the season, don't you think? He didn't have control last season. He didn't even have control when they won the title in that shortened season. So now they're finally, after you done giving up on your draft picks, giving up on your young talent or any talent, now you're going to relinquish the control to Frank Vogel. Why? Because he's a dead man walking. He's a lame duck coach. He's not going to be there in the offseason. They're clearly going to fire him and find someone else to take his place only to for that coach. It's going to be a while for you to have control of the team. This team is not going anywhere, folks. If you're a Los Angeles Lakers fan, or if you're a LeBron James fan, this team ain't going anywhere. Even if they make it to the playoffs, they're not going to get past the Golden State Warriors or the Phoenix Suns unless those teams get bounced by another team. I got another thing to tell you. The Los Angeles Lakers are not going to even get past the Brooklyn Nets or the Jazz. I mean, there's a lot of teams in front of them just in the West alone where the struggle is going to be real. And the Lakers are also going to have to get past the fact that it may be a series where Anthony Davis gets injured. Then you have to play without AD. Possibly LeBron James. He's starting to get injury prone. And then even if they make it to the finals, which I highly doubt, are you going to put any money on the Lakers beating or having a fighting chance with the Brooklyn Nets? It's going to be a long season. I mean, a long series, but you think that they're going to beat Brooklyn if Kevin Durant's back? You think they're going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks? You think they're going to be able to beat And what if the Cleveland Cavaliers make it to the finals? You think they're going to be able to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Miami Heat? Huh? You think the Lakers, with the roster that they have, can easily beat any team in the East? I highly doubt it. Unless they do a massive change. Sorry for the noise in the background. But I am done. We'll have to wait and see. Guys, I appreciate you guys coming and watching this live stream. Some of you guys watched the re-air of this. It'll be up and running later on this morning. Also, you can also join. I also allow membership. So if you want to become an official member of the Just My Opinion podcast, go right ahead. You can hit that join button. I'm going to start doing even longer live streams once I get a bunch of members and do a lot of razzle dazzling with the live streams. Probably do them in the afternoon. So, yeah, that's all I got for today, guys. Tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys on the next one. Deuces.